Chapter 13. The slip of a knife. Nolan was right. Mom doesn't question it when I tell her I'm using my phone to record things around the house for a school project. A video collage about my life for visual arts class, I say, wishing that Ms. Wilde actually gave out those kinds of assignments instead of lurking all over the school. Mom looks up from her paperwork long enough to smile at me. Maybe she's relieved I'm talking about something other than ghosts for a change. Or maybe she's too busy to care. I start in my room, recording the movements of the glass unicorns, the board games strewn across my floor, the way Doctor Who is facing a different direction every time I open the door. I carry my phone with me everywhere, ready to record at a moment's notice. I skip the bathroom entirely, nothing to see there, not anymore, and head down to the living room, recording the sound of skipping footsteps on the floor above. I race upstairs, trying to capture sight of an actual specter skipping around the hall. But of course, the minute I step foot on the stairs, the footsteps cease. I catch flickering lights and slamming doors, and of course I record our games. We're on our second round of checkers. I won the first game, and we're both busy building real estate empires in Monopoly. But I think she's cheating. I mean, not cheating exactly, but not quite following the rules either. I came back into the room once and saw her piece, she picked the shoe, was on Marvin Gardens, but when I looked at her last roll of the dice, 5, and counted back from her last spot on the board, it was clear that she should have been on Waterworks. So I crouched down beside the board and slid the shoe back one. But as soon as I lifted my fingers from the shoe, it slid right back to Marvin Gardens. "Hey!" I shouted. "No cheating!" I tried again, and it slid back again. This time the shoe was wet to the touch. "You'd think you'd feel right at home on Waterworks," I muttered, sliding it into place once more. I held it there for good measure. And then, I swear, someone, smacked my hand out of the way with such force that I fell backward. "Geez, have it your way," I said, sitting back up cross-legged in front of the board. I leaned over and studied it. And then it hit me so hard that I felt stupid for not seeing it earlier. She didn't want to be on Waterworks, not even for an instant. The symbol for Waterworks is a running faucet. "What are you trying to tell me?" I closed my eyes, remembering the splashing sounds in the bathroom that night. She didn't answer. I got up and went to my desk and grabbed the fattest black marker I could find. I leaned down over the board and drew all over the Waterworks box until it was all but invisible. "There," I said. "We'll play the rest of this game like Waterworks doesn't even exist." Then I did get an answer, the soft sound of a child laughing. Soon I was laughing too, right along with her. Maybe this was her plan all along, to get me to like her, to get me to care. On Saturday, Mom actually has the day off. Hallelujah. And we go to the supermarket to gather groceries to cook dinner together, just the way we used to in Austin. I try not to think about what happened after the last time Mom cooked me dinner. "What are we digging into tonight?" I ask eagerly. She printed a new recipe off the internet and is scanning the list of ingredients. "Chicken marsala," Mom smiles as she pushes the cart through the produce section, stopping to pick up a carton of mushrooms. She's wearing jeans and a gray sweatshirt. I can't remember the last time I saw her wearing anything but the pastel-colored nurse's scrubs. "You expect me to eat fungus?" I ask, mock incredulously. Mom knows I love mushrooms. Not true. "And like it," she answered. "We just have to find the wine." And she looks up at the signs above each aisle, moving slowly until she finds the right one. She's leaning on the cart in front of her like an elderly person does with a walker. All those long hours and late nights are wearing her out. There are circles under her eyes, and she yawns heavily. "Why don't I do the cooking tonight?" I volunteer. "You could just put your feet up and rest." Mom shakes her head. "You know, it's more fun when we do it together," she says, and I grin. I wanted to help her and everything, but I was also kind of hoping she'd say that. At home, we unload the groceries and get to work. I feed Oscar and Lex while Mom slips her sweatshirt off, revealing her high school t-shirt underneath. "Hey!" I shout. "You stole my Mustang shirt." "I most certainly did not. Don't forget it was mine first." "Prior ownership does not obviate the felony of your theft," Mom grins. "Sunshine, you have no idea what you just said." I shake my head. "No, but it sounded good," I answer. "I heard something like it on the cop show or something," I add, grinning back. It's all so blissfully ordinary that I'm tempted to lean over and kiss her. But that wouldn't be ordinary, so I don't. Mom begins slicing the mushrooms. She doesn't even bother turning on the kitchen lights before she starts. "It's too dark in here," I say, flipping the switch, but the room doesn't get any brighter. I turn on the lights over the kitchen table for good measure, but it doesn't make a difference. It takes me a second to realize why. I mean, of course, it's foggy outside. What else is new? But right now, it's foggy inside. Mist is snaking its way in from the windows, over the counter and around the stove, above the refrigerator and beneath the table. Our own private meteorological phenomenon. I hesitate before reaching for my phone. I don't want to break up our normal evening, but I guess the stupid fog has already destroyed our brief foray into normalcy. So I go ahead and pull my phone out of my pocket of my jeans I stole from Mom back in Austin. Mom is so intent on slicing the mushrooms that she doesn't notice it when I hit record and scan the room, walking in an enormous circle around her, recording every last inch of fog. If I were in a movie, this would be the moment when an actual specter would appear. All the mist would gather together, condensing until it was the shape of a little girl. Maybe she'd open her mouth and say something. I walk around the counter island, standing across the way from Mom. I focus my camera on the center of the room, waiting. Mom takes up a tiny space in the corner of my screen. The sound of her knife going through the mushrooms is a steady sort of drumbeat, one after another after another. Suddenly the sound changes and the corner of my screen turns red. "Mom!" I shout, dropping my phone with a clatter on the counter. Blood pours out from her left wrist. "I must have cut myself," she says, stating the obvious. She's much calmer than I would be if I was the one who was bleeding. She is a nurse, after all. "Don't tell me my klutziness is rubbing off on you," I say, but the joke falls flat. Maybe because my voice is shaking as I say it. I grab a wad of paper towels and press them against her left wrist. "You're shaking, Sunshine," Mom says. "Are you really still that grossed out by the sight of blood?" I nod, but it's not just the blood. I'm shivering because I'm freezing. The temperature in here seems to have dropped 50 degrees in the last 30 seconds. I gag on the musty smell of mildew in the air. Her right hand is still wrapped around the knife. She's holding it so tightly that her knuckles are white. "You can put that down," I say, pointing. "Mom," I prompt. "Put the knife down." Mom shakes her head. "I'm not finished. The mushrooms can wait." I reach for the knife when suddenly, "Ow!" I shout. Now I'm the one who's bleeding. I hold my left hand out in front of me. There's a gash at the base of my thumb. Tears spring to my eyes. "Sunshine!" Mom shouts. "What were you thinking?" I shake my head. What was I thinking, reaching for a knife like that? They teach you that kind of thing in kindergarten. Never grab a knife by the blade. But I didn't mean to grab the blade. I was reaching for her hand, wrapped around the knife's handle. I must have slipped or something. "Let me see your hand," Mom says, reaching for me. She doesn't notice it's so cold that her breath comes out of her mouth as vapor. For a split second, I wish I were still holding my phone, recording all of this. Now that's insane. I had to put my phone down to help. The ghost is important and everything, but not nearly as important as the fact that Mom and I are both bleeding. My blood lands on the counter next to Mom's blood. Plop, 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 plop. Suddenly the room is spinning. My head feels like it's filled with helium and is threatening to pop right off and float away. My cut isn't nearly as bad as Mom's, but still, it's just so much blood. I slide forward, my hand leaving a bloody trail on the counter. For some reason, I can't seem to keep my eyes open. The next thing I know, I'm laying on the couch with Mom standing over me. "What happened?" "You fainted." "I did? I guess all that blood was way too much for you," she says. "So much for a normal night." "I don't think this is very funny," I protest. My hand is bandaged perfectly, so is Mom's. The advantages of living with a medical expert. "How did I get on the couch?" "I carried you." "You did? Since when is she strong enough to carry me?" "Dinner's ready." "You cooked dinner?" "Of course," she answers, like that's the most obvious thing to do after you've both cut yourself and your daughter, and then your daughter passed out. I get up and follow her into the kitchen, still feeling slightly woozy. The mist is completely gone, except for some patches of condensation scattered across the kitchen counter. The room is bright with all the lights on, and Mom is spooning chicken onto 2 plates. Maybe it's not too late to salvage this normal evening, I think, hopefully. I set my mouth into a smile and force myself to say, "Looks delicious." But as I cut into the meat, I can see that it's not going to be. "Mom, I don't think this got cooked all the way through." "What are you talking about?" she answers, reaching across the table and spearing the chicken meat with her fork. The yellowish meat drips water as it crosses to her side of the table. And I try not to gag as she lifts the nearly raw meat to her mouth and chews it with gusto. "Don't eat that!" I shout. "You'll get sick." "Don't be ridiculous, it's perfect." Her wound hasn't healed, and blood seeps out of the side of her bandage onto the chicken on her plate. I watch her eat it all, the undercooked meat, the drops of blood. If my phone weren't all the way over on the kitchen counter, I'd record this too, though it would probably be barely washable with my hands the way they're trembling. I don't know what this is, but it's certainly not perfect. How could Mom think that anything at all is perfect? End of that chapter. Join me next time.